Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear viewers, and welcome back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set forth a parable that we covered in Surah An-Nur, the light, that's chapter 24, in verse 35, about the believer. In verse 40, Allah ta'ala set forth another parable, this time for the heart of the disbeliever. Allah ta'ala goes on to say, أَوْ كَظُلُمَاتٍ فِي بَحْرِ اللُّجِّ, that the state of the disbeliever is like the darkness in a vast, deep sea. يَغْشَاهُ مَوْجٌ مِّن فَوْقِهِ مَوْجٌ, overwhelmed with waves, topped by waves. مِّن فَوْقِهِ سَحَابٌ, topped by a dark clouds. ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ, layers of darkness upon layers of darkness. إِذَا أَخْرَجَ يَدَهُ لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا, if a man stretches out his hand, he can hardly see it. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِنْ نُورٍ, and for whom Allah has not appointed light, for him there is no light. This is the translation of what that verse is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the reality and an explanation of a phenomena in the deep sea. Water, by nature, is dark. In its natural being is dark of a color. The darkness comes in its natural state in the ocean. And also another phenomena is the fact that the water in the ocean, the body, the huge body that we see and we refer to us with a bare naked eye, we think it's just one simple body. Allah Ta'ala brings our attention to another reality, another fact, another miracle. That miracle and fact is the water is not one simple body, but rather it is layers and layers and layers and layers, one on top of another. And each layer is dark, of course, being that the water is dark in its natural state. Allah Ta'ala said that if a person were to travel in the depth of the water in the ocean, he will have to travel from one layer of darkness to another layer of darkness, to another layer of darkness, and then you reach a point in that depth to where if a man were to stretch his hand close to his face, he wouldn't be able to see even the shadow of his hand. إِذَا أَخْرَجَ يَدَهُ لَمْ يَكَدْ يَرَاهَا. This is a fact in the depth of water. This is the parable Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set forth in regards to the heart of the disbeliever. Layers of disbelief over the natural disposition Allah ta'ala created each and every son of Adam with. The disbelief would overwhelm that light that Allah ta'ala created him upon, and then that light will vanish, will go away, and it will be replaced with the darkness of disbelief. This is to start with. That darkness is going to lead to more darkness. What is that darkness that will come? It will breed more darkness, just like we mentioned about the light in the heart of the believer. It will breed more light. How is that light translated? It is translated in the actions of the disbeliever. Darkness of the heart is going to be translated into darkness of the actions. And that action cannot be denied. That every single individual will look at a behavior, an action, whether that is with a statement or an action done by the individual himself, as being a bad action. The fact that we describe it and categorize it as being bad, it refers to the heart being bad. Because as we mentioned before, the heart is the king. And the king sends out commands to be fulfilled. And the action that is bad, reflecting the heart, is going to add more darkness to the original darkness in the heart. This is why what Allah Ta'ala is referring to as being a one layer of darkness going to another layer of darkness. This is as you travel in the depth of the water in the oceans, the same thing. The heart of the disbeliever is overwhelmed with the first darkness that got rid of the light of the natural disposition that he is created with. Gone, vanished. Now it is totally replaced with the darkness of disbelief. That disbelief is going to add more darkness to it by the actions. How do we know this? Every bad action brings about darkness in the heart. And every good deed brings light to the heart, to the heart. So with more darkness coming onto the heart, you're adding layers and layers and layers, to the point that if a person were to see the light of Iman, the light of guidance from the one who created him, he will not recognize it. Just like a person who is going to the depth of the water, when he reaches a certain depth, if he were to stretch his hand out, his hand is the closest thing to his face, yet he will not be able to see even the shadow. That's how dark the area is in that depth of the water. Would the individual not be able to even see the shadow of his own head stuck right there in his face? The same thing when it comes to the light of guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should never be estimated. That should the heart be overwhelmed with the darkness of disbelief and the darkness of bad actions and bad deeds, the individual will not be able to recognize the guidance coming to him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we say, even if it hits him in the face, will not see it, will not recognize it, therefore will not accept it, will not welcome it into the heart that is filled with darkness. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ. Darkness, layers of darkness, over and upon layers of darkness. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورٍ. That for whom Allah Ta'ala has not appointed light. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one to save the individual. No one can save him in this regard. Only Allah Ta'ala can save the individual from being in a state of loss and remain in that state of darkness. If it isn't for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent that light in, no one can get him out of that state. Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورٍ. That for whom Allah Ta'ala has not appointed light, for whom there is no light. No one, not even the person himself, can get the light anywhere. And the proof of it is, everyone is driven by the desire of finding the light that we call happiness. That happiness cannot be found unless you look for it in the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the only place where the light, the real light is. Forget the definition of what happiness is and the light that people go right and left in so many different directions to look for the happiness and to look for the guidance, to look for the light. only one direction, and that is in the guidance of Allah with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In short, in La ilaha illallah, in the path of al-Islam. This is the only light that will get anyone from the darkness of disbelief, the darkness of misery, the darkness of being astray, to the light of guidance, to the light of al-Islam, to the path that would lead them to Allah Ta'ala, to safety in the hereafter. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of our hearts and to keep us steadfast on the light of al-Islam. And stay with us inshaAllah ta'ala as we go on to cover the parable Allah ta'ala set forth about the heart of the hypocrite.
Allahu, Allahu, Ya Rabbi, Ya Allah.